The next technique I'd like to show you is the hand crusher technique. So it's basically just a glorified stainless mortar pestle. And basically this is everything laid out that you're going to need for the process. And this was designed so we could either do really small samples like this tiny little core, or you can actually process your samples in the field. And so you don't have to ship home all these rocks. All you have to do is hand crush this. It fits through your sieve, and so you know you have everything crushed. And then you can use a gold pan in the field. And so all you do is you bring home just the splits that you want out of that rock sample. So I've pre-scrubbed this whole thing and dried it out. So now that everything's cleaned up, we set it up. I do this on the ground because this has so much inertia that if you try and do it on a counter, a workbench, a table, for one, it doesn't work very good because as you slam this down on the ground, the table's going to move a little bit. So you're not really getting the full impact on your sample. The other problem is if you're doing this all day long, you could easily destroy a simple table or a workbench. And so we work on the ground, and then we use this little rubber mat. So this rubber mat actually keeps us from sending a loud impact throughout the rest of the building. If you're in the field, doesn't matter. Find yourself a nice boulder to work on. It gives you a nice base. Last thing to discuss is this little ring. And so this little donut goes over the pestle, and then it locks down with these little clamps, and that prevents any sample when you really hit it from flying out around the sides. And so you can see this core sample is extremely small. We don't want even the smallest pebble to fly out. And therefore, I'm going to put this little retaining donut on to make sure everything stays in the mortar pestle system and it makes its way over to the filter. I've already prepared our filter. And so this is just a PVC pipe with a press ring. And you can see the sieve there. This is a 450 micron sieve. Zircons typically don't get much bigger than that. And so we make sure that everything has been pulverized to that size or smaller. If you don't have this 450 micron sieve, you can easily use window screen, but make sure you get the smallest weave you can, because window screen is pushing about 1,000 microns. So this is what we use. If you're in a pinch, use some window screen, but make sure you never reuse either screen, because you can always get grains embedded into this weave, and you want to make sure you throw that away, because if you reuse that and that was a zircon and that made your next sample, that could really skew your results. And so I have this sieve screen, goes into our baggie, and so this bag is what's going to catch all of our sediment at the end of the process. Also notice that I'm working on a garbage bag. A nice fresh garbage bag means that there's absolutely no contamination. So we're ready to start crushing. So we're going to take our little core sample. We've got our donut locked in place. Drop that in. And I like to start, I don't like to go crazy right away, or you can actually blow stuff. Even though you have this retaining donut, you know, there's still a little bit of space in there for stuff to fly out. So I like to start a little conservative to make sure you have mostly pebbles before you really start pounding on it. So I don't know if you can see it, but every now and then a little bit of dust comes out because it has to displace. This pestle going in means air coming out. So be a little conservative as you get started. Pour it in. Give it a little slap. Show it who's boss. So to get it to go through the sieve, you basically do like the shake and bake method. Shake and then bake.
It's a little bit of shake and then bake. Shake and bake.
But you don't have to do the bake. You basically just work it around a little bit. You can actually see here that we have some sediment that's already fallen out. That's about 25% of our sample size. So going pretty quick. So we take this now. And this is a kind of a weird technique. So you don't want to pull this sieve completely out of the bag or things could still fall out. So allow it to tilt, keep the bag vertical, and then you can pour everything in and not lose anything. and you basically repeat. So you're going to do that until everything has been pulverized and made it through the sieve. So I have a couple of different basics techniques, I guess you could call them. So there's smashing straight down in the middle. That's going to blow your sample out. But then you also have to realize that the sample around the outer rim isn't getting hit. So I also like to hit down and catch the edges. So you'll notice I come in and the pestle sweeps in. Because sometimes it's not just the pounding that actually pulverizes this stuff, it's the sliding of the pestle across the surface. So besides pounding down, you can also work it around. If you're going to work it around, it's best to get rid of the donut. I like this method where you kind of work around the edges. And when you're doing that sliding, you don't have to worry about things blowing out because you're not really doing an impact. Sometimes it's even best to start with this sliding method because if your sample's soft, you don't need to pound it. You really just need to do the old mortar pestle technique of sliding it across. And you don't want to do this process too long before dumping it back into your sieve because you could be crushing minerals past their largest grain size. You could be smashing them into half or fourths or whatever. So do this little bit, back in. You'll see there's pretty much nothing that's left. So what I like to do is pour that in. Okay, so the last little bit, you've gotten to the point of diminishing returns where you have so little that I'm going to skip even using the sieve. So dump this straight into your bag. But then also realize that within your sieve, right down here at the base, there's a lot of sample that's actually not gone through the sieve but worked its way under the rim. So to recover that, take your sieve. So you're going to push down on the sieve while you're pulling up on the ring. And so that ensures that you've got every single piece of that sample. I like to take my sieve out and then actually work every last grain that might be stuck within it. Stuff that's right at that 450 micron. Sieve gets tossed, everything else gets cleaned. Sample gets bagged and labeled. Since the sample's so small, we have a lot of static. I'm going to take this all the way down to our MinSep lab and work with this because I can still rinse off all of that and maybe recover a few small zircons. Okay, now to clean everything, the first thing you want to do is rinse it all off, get all the dust out. Anything that's not embedded that you're going to have to scrape out, just rinse it out. So rinse out the mortar, rinse off the pestle, fill it up with a little bit of water, add a couple drops of soap. Make sure your hands are dry before you handle the drill. First thing you're going to chuck up is the big brush. So for this, it's an automatic chuck, so make sure the drill is on clockwise. Grab the chuck and then hold it while you tighten. So working your way around on the bottom there. Then with a big brush, you can come up and work all the sides. Once you've done the big brush, put on the medium brush. Now with the medium brush, you can't really do the sides, so you're mainly just focusing on getting smaller in the middle of the bottom. And then with the medium brush, you can actually work on the tip of the pestle. So careful with this, you don't want to hit your hand, but it allows you to really scrub that impact zone. So that really allows you to get off all of the embedded grains. Rinse that off. And then finally switch to the small brush. Small brush, all you're really doing is getting the dead center on the bottom. So there you go. You're going to repeat that process Do it twice total. Then rinse it out real well. And then with a soapy sponge, you want to make sure that you scrub the outside of both the motor and the pestle. You'll notice I'm wearing safety wear eyeglasses because you're working with wire brushes. Those bristles can fly off and hit you in the eye. Next, I'm going to put on ear protection, and I'm going to blow this off with the compressed air. Once it's all dried off, you can set this on the counter, and it's ready, nice and clean, even though the next person is going to clean it before they use it. And that ensures absolutely no contamination in any of our samples. So that one's clean. Then soap up our pestle. Rinse it off. And then finally blow dry it off with compressed air. Scrub down our rubber mat. So soap that down, rinse it, do it again. So soap it down, rinse it. And then this goes back on its drying rack. And then our sieve ring. So soap it down, rinse it, do it again, soap it down, rinse it. Then our main sieve tube. Soap it down, inside and out. Rinse it, do it again. So that concludes our hand crusher technique. If you'd like to purchase one of these, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll get back to you. If you have any questions or comments about how to improve the video or the next process you might want to see, also feel free to leave a comment below. Feel free to subscribe. There's going to be more training videos coming each week as we get through all of our processes in order to take a rock down to a zircon sample and then finally get ages and hafnium isotopes. So check them out as they come out. Thanks for watching.